Welcome to RankLens. Today, we count down the top 10 largest countries by land area. Imagine a country so vast, it spans 11 time zones. When the sun rises on its eastern edge, it's already setting in the west. Tonight, we're counting down the 10 largest countries on Earth by land area. From scorching deserts to frozen tundra, from Amazon jungles to Himalayan peaks. These 10 giants control nearly half the planet's landmass. So which nation claims the crown as the biggest country on the globe? Let's count down from number 10. At number 10, Algeria, covering 24 million square kilometers. That makes Algeria the largest country on the entire African continent, beating out giants like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Sudan. But here's the twist. More than 80% of Algeria's land is swallowed by the Sahara Desert. We're talking about a sea of sand so massive it could fit entire countries inside it. Towering dunes, rocky plateaus, and temperatures that can melt the soles off your shoes. So where does everyone actually live? Squeezed onto a narrow strip along the Mediterranean coast, cities like Algiers and Oran cling to the shoreline, where the climate is mild and the soil is fertile. It's a country of dramatic extremes, where empty desert meets crowded coast in just a few hundred kilometers. At number 9, Kazakhstan, stretching across 2.7 million square kilometers. And here's what makes Kazakhstan truly unique. It's the largest landlocked country in the entire world. Not a single coastline, not one beach. Yet it's bigger than all of Western Europe combined. So what fills all that space? Endless rolling steppe. Vast grasslands that seem to stretch into infinity, where nomadic horsemen have ridden for thousands of years. But Kazakhstan hides another secret. Out in the middle of nowhere sits Baikonur, the historic Soviet-era spaceport. This is where Yuri Gagarin blasted off to become the first human in space. Even today, rockets still roar into orbit from these remote Kazakh plains. It's a country where ancient nomadic culture meets cutting-edge space exploration. At number 8, Argentina, also measuring 2.7 million square kilometers. Argentina is a country of staggering geographic diversity. In the north, you've got steamy subtropical jungles teeming with wildlife. Travel south, and you reach Patagonia, a wind-swept frontier of glaciers and fjords pointing toward Antarctica. No other country stretches quite this far from tropical heat to polar cold. Argentina also holds another title. It's the largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. Bigger than Spain, bigger than Mexico, bigger than any of its South American neighbors. And running along its entire western edge are the mighty Andes. These towering peaks form a natural border with Chile, creating one of the longest mountain frontiers on Earth. From tango in Buenos Aires to penguins in the south, Argentina packs incredible variety into its massive frame. At number 7, India, covering 3.0 million square kilometers. Now, here's something mind-blowing. India hosts the world's largest population on a relatively compact landmass. Over 1.4 billion people squeezed into a country smaller than Australia or Brazil. The density is staggering. But India's geography is anything but simple. In the far north, you've got the Himalayas, home to some of the tallest peaks on the planet. Travel south, and you hit tropical coastlines lapped by the Indian Ocean, lined with palm trees and spice plantations. In between, India shows off even more contrast. The arid Thar Desert burns in the west, while the fertile Gangetic Plains in the north feed hundreds of millions. From snow to sand to sea, India is a subcontinent of overwhelming diversity, all packed into one extraordinary nation. At number 6, Australia, a massive 7.7 million square kilometers. Australia is in a category all by itself, literally. It's the only country in the world that occupies an entire continent. No shared borders, no neighbors next door. Just one nation, surrounded by ocean on every side. But don't let the size fool you. Most of Australia's vast interior, known as the outback, is brutally arid desert. Endless red earth, sparse vegetation, and some of the harshest conditions on Earth. That's why most Australians cling to the coast. Here's another fun fact that might surprise you. Australia is actually the smallest of the 7 continents by area, so it wins both ways. The smallest continent, but still one of the largest countries. A unique geographic paradox wrapped in kangaroos and outback sunshine. At number 5, Brazil, sprawling across 84 million square kilometers. Brazil is the green giant of the planet. About 60% of the Amazon rainforest sits within its borders, making it the guardian of the world's largest tropical jungle. We're talking millions of square kilometers of dense canopy, home to jaguars, anacondas, and countless species we haven't even discovered yet. The Amazon River alone could swallow most countries whole. Brazil is also the undisputed king of the Southern Hemisphere. It's the largest country south of the equator, dwarfing every neighbor it has. And speaking of neighbors, Brazil shares borders with almost every South American nation. In fact, only Chile and Ecuador don't touch its frontier. From samba in Rio to riverboats deep in the Amazon, Brazil dominates a continent. At number 4, Canada, weighing in at 8.8 million square kilometers. Canada holds a record that's almost impossible to beat. It has the world's longest coastline, and it's not even close. We're talking over 200,000 kilometers of shoreline, weaving through countless islands, fjords, and Arctic inlets. If you walked it non-stop, it would take you years. But here's the twist about this huge country. Most Canadians live within 150 kilometers of the US border. The vast majority of the population is squeezed into a thin southern strip, hugging cities like Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. So, what's up north? An incredible wilderness. Endless tundra, frozen lakes, and the mighty boreal forest stretch toward the Arctic. It's a land of moose, polar bears, and silence, where you can travel for days without seeing another soul. At number 3, the United States, covering 9.1 million square kilometers. The USA is a continental colossus, stretching across 6 different time zones. That includes the lower 48, plus Alaska way up north and Hawaii out in the Pacific. When New Yorkers are finishing dinner, Hawaiians are just sitting down to lunch. And let's talk about Alaska for a second. This single state is enormous. Alaska alone makes up roughly a fifth of the entire U.S. territory. It's bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. A frozen frontier of glaciers, grizzlies, and oil fields. The USA is also one of the few countries that touches 2 major oceans, the Atlantic on the east, the Pacific on the west. From the rocky coast of Maine to the surf beaches of California, America is a land of staggering coast-to-coast diversity. At number 2, China, an enormous 9.4 million square kilometers. China is a country with neighbors, a lot of neighbors. It borders 14 different countries, tied for the most of any nation on Earth. From Russia in the north to Vietnam in the south, China touches a who's who of Asian nations. That's a lot of fences to mend. The terrain inside is just as varied. In the southwest, China climbs into the Himalayas, sharing some of the highest peaks on the planet. Travel north, and you hit the Gobi, one of the most punishing deserts in the world. Then, there are the lush coastal plains in the east, where megacities like Shanghai sprawl along the Pacific. And of course, China is one of the world's 2 most populous nations, tied alongside India. Over 1 billion people living across mountains, deserts, plains, and gleaming cities. And at number 1, the undisputed champion, Russia. A jaw-dropping 16.4 million square kilometers. Russia is so massive, it almost breaks the map. It spans 11 time zones and stretches across 2 continents, Europe and Asia. When the sun rises over Vladivostok in the east, it's still the middle of the night in Moscow. Russia is also the lungs of the north. It holds the world's largest forest reserves, the legendary taiga. We're talking millions of square kilometers of pine, spruce, and birch, home to bears, wolves, and Siberian tigers. And speaking of Siberia, this single region is larger than most other entire countries on this list, bigger than Canada, bigger than China. A frozen, mineral-rich wilderness that defines the scale of Russia. It's not just the biggest country, it's a world unto itself. So what does this giant list really tell us? Look closely, and you'll notice something fascinating. The biggest countries on Earth aren't necessarily the most powerful or the most populated. Many of these vast lands are mostly empty. Deserts, tundra, jungle, and ice. Geography shapes destiny, but it doesn't determine it. India squeezes more humans onto less land than anyone. Australia rules an entire continent with barely 26 million people. Size brings resources, opportunity, and challenges. Vast borders to defend, harsh terrain to tame, distant regions to govern. In the end, these 10 giants remind us just how varied, vast, and breathtaking our planet truly is. And that's the top 10 largest countries by land area. If you enjoyed this countdown, subscribe to RankLens for more.